You guys can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Great. So once again, good morning. So today we will start with another new chapter. So so this chapter we will be seeing pipelining. Okay. So pipelining and superscalar techniques. So previously, what we saw in the earlier chapter, we saw about buses and then cache memory, shared memory, and then we also saw sequential and weak consistency models. Okay, so now we will be starting with pipelining. Okay, so what is pipelining? So pipelining we briefly saw in one of your earlier modules. I think in module 2, we saw introduction to pipelining. So we will just take a simple example of a laundry. Okay. So if you take the different steps in laundry, it can be said it consists of four basic operations. So one is washing, and one is drying, one is folding, and the other one is storing. Right. So you can actually have the entire laundry step end to end process of your laundry as this. Correct. So now if you have a non-pipelined laundry, then what you have is something like this. Okay, so let's assume that you have four different people: A, B, C, D, Anna, Ben, Kathy, Dave, someone, right? So let's say for Anna, it's or Anne, right? So it's going to be these four operations. Okay, so it's she's going to do all four: washing, drying, folding, and storing. While Ben may not do all four, so each one can have their own process, but everything is a subset of all these transaction steps. Okay, now if you do a non-pipeline laundry, each one is going to have a fixed slot, and it's going to take uh, like 2 hours, right? And then Ben's going to take just one hour. Kathy is going to take 1.5 hours, and Dave again is going to take 1 hour. So total, it's just going to be addition of all these time slots. Okay. However, when you have a pipelined laundry, what you can do is you can actually compress this, because see, you're using different resources here. Okay, you're not using the same resource for every slot. So for example, once Anne's done with washing, so actually Ben can start washing. Okay, so that's what is happening here. So if you see, uh just 1 second, give me a second. All right, presentation, yeah. So so when Anne's not washing, okay, so Anne's done with her washing, so Ben can start washing. Okay, so Ben and Anne cannot wash at the same time. Okay, so we cannot wash at this time, but then when Anne's doing the drying, so generally you have a washer separately and a dryer separately. Okay, so let's assume that's the case, but I think now we have washing machines that do both. But in this example, so in general, you have, if you go to a professional laundry service or something, you have a washer separately and dryer separately. So while Anne's drying her clothes, Ben can start washing his clothes. Okay, and when Ben is done with his washing, he can again start with his drying. By then, Anne's would have done with her drying. Okay, and so on. So this is the typical pipelining process. If you take your washing machine, the washing machine is actually utilized 100% of the time, right? Like it's used continuously. Okay, in one slot or the other. Okay, so the idea is you can actually compress the entire process in a pipelined fashion. Okay, so that what you have is what you could have achieved in several hours. So typically this would have taken 6.5 hours, right? So what would have taken 6.5 hours, you could have actually you have achieved that in just let us say 3 hours, correct? So this is the best part of pipelining. Okay, so now this is just the laundry example. Any questions on this, guys? So guys are now understanding what pipelining is all about. Hmm? It's about efficiently using your resources. Okay. Okay, now coming back to computer architecture. Now, we saw computer in your earlier module. We saw what are different pipeline operations we do, right? Like we typically have fetch, decode, execute, and all these stages. Okay, now pipeline in this, right? So there are may they can be classified into two main types. So one is an asynchronous pipeline, and the other one is a synchronous pipeline. Okay, by default we consider a linear pipeline. So we will see in a bit what is linear pipeline. Okay, but in linear pipeline we are classifying the pipeline into asynchronous and synchronous. Now what's the difference between asynchronous and synchronous? Lavanya, you want to answer? Lavanya, are you there? Govindaraju, are you there? Zishan, I'm actually noting your names. Zishan, Yash, yeah, good. Synchronous has clock in it, very good. And asynchronous doesn't have a clock. Okay, so that's exactly what it is. So in asynchronous pipeline, we don't have a clock. But how do we know when somebody finished their laundry, right? So how will you know whether the stage is done or not? It's simply by checking, isn't it? So you're just going to check with Anne. Ben is going to check with Anne, saying, "Hey, are you done with your washing machine washing?" And then she's going to say, "Yes, I am." Okay, something like that. So here in this, every stage will have a ready, and then there is going to be an acknowledge. Hey, yeah, that's right, Lavanya. It is signals in asynchronous. What signals? These are ready and acknowledgement signals. Okay, so you don't have a clock, but rather every time you are done with the stage, there is going to be some kind of a handshake. So that's what it is. Okay, so this ready and acknowledge, always in asynchronous mode you will have handshakes and you will not have clock. And in synchronous you don't need handshake, but doesn't mean you don't have handshake, but then in synchronous definitely you will have clock. Okay, so that's your synchronous pipeline, whatever is shown here. And interestingly, if you see, your pipeline is always like this. Okay, so your a synchronous pipeline, if you say check a synchronous pipeline, it's going to have this stage. Okay, S1, S2, S3, S4, and so on. What is this stage? This stage is nothing but it's a combinational circuit. Okay, it's going to be a big combinatorial logic, something like this. Okay, so it's going to be uh, That's not a right thing to do. Yeah, you can do this. Okay. It's going to be something. Okay. So it's going to be a big combinatorial logic that goes in this. Okay. What is a combinatorial logic? You give an input, you immediately get an output. Okay. And then only as long as your input is valid, you'll have your output valid. Okay. And there is going to be some delay here. Okay, so this combinator, depending on how many stages you have. So if it is a single AND gate, right, it's only one gate delay. But then if you have a series of gates here, it's going to have some kind of a delay. Okay, now there's going to be some delay for every combinatorial logic. And now it's very difficult, right, to actually divide into different stages. Okay, because the inputs can actually vary instantaneously. Okay, and this output is just going to keep flickering. So how do you keep target, like how do you actually pass a particular set of output from this pipeline, from this stage to the next stage? So the answer is a latch. Okay, what is a latch? Latch is nothing but it's like it's a series of flip flops. Oh, sorry. A latch is nothing but a latch or flip flop are kind of the same. But what you have here is a series of latches to form some kind of registers. Okay, so a latch is a sequential logic device that can store one bit. Okay, now what I meant to say was, so for every stage you have a series of latches to form like one big register that is that can operate through a clock. Okay, so depending on how many signals you are getting out of this combinatorial logic, you will have that many latches, and that will form one register here. Okay, so in other words, what you have here is a combinatorial logic interleaved by latches or flip flops. Latches are nothing but your flip flops with additional gates or so. So the main difference is your flip flops are edge triggered while your latches are level triggered. So that's the difference, but they are the same. Okay, so you learned about flip flops. And what is the property of flip flop or latch? It can store one bit. Okay, it can store one bit. So the idea is, when you give a clock pulse to your latch, what will happen is it is going to take whatever is there. So initially the latch, let us say it has logic 0. Okay, now if you actually give a clock, if you give a clock, then what it is going to do is it is going to get the input from your previous from your input, which is nothing but your combinational logic. At this point, during this clock time, whatever logic your combinatorial circuit has, that will be loaded into this latch. Okay, and it will store. So this acts as a buffer. So if like 1 is the output, then this latch will now store 1. Okay, now this is some kind of memory. And so every time what you do is you supply the same clock to all the stages. Okay, all the latches you supply the same clock. So what happens is, it's something like saying somebody is giving you a signal saying, okay, now pass pass the ball. Okay, so you imagine all these stages to be like guys. Okay, and then let us say they have something in their hand. Okay, they have a ball in hand. Each one has a ball in hand. Now you need someone else, and that is this clock. So this guy is going to say, okay, pass. When it says pass, then this guy is going to pass the ball here, this guy is going to pass the ball here, this guy is going to pass the ball here, and it's just going to pass on. Okay, so the moment the latch gets the ball, so it becomes the input to the next combinatorial circuit, next stage. Okay, understood? Any questions? Okay, so this is simply like you're passing the ball. Okay, but you want to do everything in a single instant. Okay, you're going to say pass. Now I am going, what will happen? I am going to get the ball from my previous guy, and I am going to pass my ball. Like let us say we are sitting in a circle or something, we're sitting in a sequence or something, right? So we will get the data, get the ball from the guy to the left of us, and then we will pass the ball to the guy who's to the right of us. Okay, so now that is how it is done. So this is your synchronized or synchronous pipeline, and throughout this book we are going to focus mainly on synchronous pipeline. Okay, we always have a clock. Any questions on this? Is it clear, guys? See, if this is not clear, we are not going to get anything out of the next classes. Okay, so the next this class and the next few classes are very, very important. Is it clear, guys? Okay, great. All right. So next we have something called as a reservation table. Okay. So now this is again another important concept. Now in a pipeline, what you have is you need to somehow track at any given instant of time who or all which are the stages that are busy. Correct. So now in order to track that, you will maintain one table, and that table is called as a reservation table. Okay, so that's shown here. So this reservation table. So here what will happen? So you can again as we mentioned, right? So these are the individual stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. This could be your fetch, this could be your decode, this could be your execute, and this could be your write back. Okay, it's just for a simple pipeline. Okay, it could be anything. So depending on your pipeline, then these stages could be different, and you're going to track at any given instant of time what this particular stage is doing. Okay, so here let us say S1. Okay, in time instant 1 is running this instruction X. Okay, it's handling this function. We will call it function. Okay, functions are nothing but it's like your instruction. It could be an add, it could be load or something. Okay, so so that's what your S1 is doing at time instant 1. Now in time instant 2, what this guy is doing? Okay, your clock is up, right? So you do a tick in your clock, and then you pass the ball. Now X is passed to S2. Okay, S2 is working on it in the time instant 2, and after that S2 is done, it is passing the ball to S3. So at time instant 3, your S3 is working. Okay, and then similarly your time instant 4, the ball is passed to S4. Okay, and once S4 is done, you can give away your output. So your output is ready at this time. Okay, so it's done. Okay, so now you can see that this is called as your reservation table. Okay, so this is just reserving like at what stage which function is getting executed, okay, or getting occupied. Okay, the stage is busy doing what? Doing this function. Okay, if there is nothing stated here, it's doing nothing. Okay, which means I can actually allocate some other task. Okay, so I can actually give this something else. I can give y. Okay, and then y can be passed on to the next guys. Okay, so this gives us an idea who is busy and who is not. Okay, so that is your reservation table. Clear? Okay. Clocking and timing control. So now we are dealing with synchronous pipeline. Okay, so again as I said, so unless we are explicitly stating, we are going to stick to synchronous pipelines. And one second before going into this, and why this is called as linear is because of this, right? So this diagonal operation, so it's just a simple linear pipeline. It's just one single line. Okay, I just pass to the next guy. He passes to the next guy, next guy, and it's done. It's done in a linear fashion. Okay. Now coming to this, let tau I be the time delay for a circuit. Okay, time delay of a particular circuit in this stage I. Okay, so stage Si is, it has a delay. Now what you should note is that each of these stages, right, can have their own delay. So that is very very important. Okay, so let us say this is fetch will have say uh, like 2 nanoseconds. Okay, for this it has a combinatorial logic. Okay, so the combinatorial logic from input to output, so whatever time it takes, right, so from your input to output. So let us say it takes 2 nanoseconds, and now let us assume there is another stage here. Okay, decode, let us say it takes 3 nanoseconds, and so on. And then let us say there is one stage, actually the decode will take a lot of time. Okay, so let us assume that decode takes say 30 nanoseconds, and then let us say one other guy, right, so this guy takes 10 nanoseconds. Now the question is, what should be the clock? How frequent should my clock be? Okay, what is the clock time period I should supply for my correct operation? Okay, in other words, it's saying that there are like several guys sitting. One guy can pass the ball in 2 nanoseconds, but the other guy, right, he is a very slow guy. He's a slow coach, and that guy will take 30 nanoseconds to pass this ball, because he's doing something with this ball, like he is actually exploring or doing whatever, right? He's a very slow processor, so he is taking 30 nanoseconds. Okay, and then the other guy is taking 10 nanoseconds, somewhere in between. Now we told, right, so there is going to be this clock guy who will shout, pass the ball, pass the ball. So now how frequent this guy should say pass the ball? Soumya, you want to answer that? Shruti? Okay, the question is, one guy is taking 2 nanoseconds to pass the ball, next guy is taking 30 nanoseconds to pass the ball, the other guy is taking 10 nanoseconds to pass the ball. Okay, so but I should have like a nice synchronized pattern of passing the ball. Okay, so each guy has one guy is fast, one guy is slow, and all these things, right? But this clock guy has to make sure the ball is actually passed correctly. Okay, so now how often should he call out pass the ball? 14 nanoseconds. Why is that? Average. Okay, and what's the problem with average? Let's check. Sweden.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's the problem with average? Can you do average and then you say 14 nanoseconds? I'll just call out.
What if one of it passes the ball earlier or requires more time than the average?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what will happen then, right? So let us say I'm
Yes.
shouting at 14 nanosecond. I say pass the ball, but my stage two guy, right? He's very very slow. He's halfway. He has explored the ball. He needs 30 seconds to work. Ah, Shruti now got it. So max of all. So what is it going to be? 30 nanoseconds. Correct, right? Shruti, you're right. So you're going to take the max of all. Okay, so which means that it doesn't matter, my fetching only takes 2 nanoseconds. My fetch is going to say, hey, I'm fast, I can pass it in 2 nanoseconds. But the clock guy is going to say, dude, okay, you are fast, you are very, very smart, I know. But you see, I mean, these are nice guys, right? So they're all friends. So you're gonna say, you are very fast. But this guy, right, we need to help him out. He needs 30 seconds. It's okay, don't push him. After 30 seconds, let us do. Okay, so you're going to take 30 nanoseconds, you're going to wait for 30 nanoseconds. This guy will wait next 28 nanoseconds, he's just going to wait. Oh, okay, he's going to check his cell phone for WhatsApp or whatever. And this guy is also going to do the same thing. But after 30 nanoseconds, stage 2 guys say, hey, I'm done. Then everyone's happy. So this guy say, pass the ball. Okay, so which means that your clock frequency or the time between two clock pulses should be as big as your maximum stage delay. Correct? Understood? Okay, so now let's go and check out some equations. Now, tau I is the time delay for the circuit at stage I. Okay, so which means that the guy S1 will take tau 1 time. Okay, and the guy in S2 is going to take tau 2 and so on. And k is the total number of stages. If it's a 4-stage pipeline, number of stages k equals to 4. If it's a 20-stage pipeline, your k equals to 20, right? So depending on number of stages, if you have only fetch, decode, execute, write back, these are the only 4 stages, then it means my k equals to 4. And then d is the time delay of a latch. So we said we are going to use latches. Okay, so these latches, they have a time, right? So they need some time, even though you say okay, pass the ball, it actually takes some time for the latch to pass it to the next stage. Okay, so there is some finite time delay for that. Okay, so now clock cycle. What is the clock cycle? Clock cycle is nothing but how much I can supply to my processor. Now we always see, right, or let us say we have our laptop. You take your laptop, for example, you have 2.4 gigahertz as my clock frequency. What does it mean? What is 2.5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz they're talking about? Can't it be 3 gigahertz? No, it cannot be 3 gigahertz. Why? Because if you take 2.4 gigahertz, you take the inverse of that, probably it will come to say zero point 0.4 nanoseconds or something. And this zero point 0.4 nanoseconds, you need that much time. That's the delay of the slowest guy. Okay, in your pipeline. If you take a pipeline, and in that pipeline, the delay of that slowest guy, right? If that, let us assume that guy is 1 nanosecond. 1 nanosecond is the slowest guy. Then that's the maximum stage delay, correct? 1 nanosecond is the maximum stage delay. Then how much clock frequency can you supply? 1 divided by 1 nanosecond. It will come to 1 gigahertz. Okay, got it? So now, again, if the fastest guy is now say 0.5 nanoseconds, in zero point 0.5 nanoseconds, that's the fastest guy. I mean, sorry, the slowest guy. The slowest guy is zero point 0.5 nanoseconds. Then 1 divided by zero point 0.5 nanoseconds is going to be 2 gigahertz. Okay, now that is how your clock frequency is computed. Okay, so we all say my processor is 2.4 gigahertz. Okay, it just means that the slowest guy in your pipeline, in your processor laptop's pipeline, will take 1 divided by 2.4 into 10 power 9. Okay, that's the, so now here tau m is the maximum stage delay. And how is maximum stage delay computed? It's nothing but maximum of all tau I. Okay, and you also add a latch of delay. You just add one latch delay because all the latches are getting triggered at the same time. Okay, so you add one more component to it plus d. Okay, clear, guys? See, these are very, very important. Okay, all right. So next is pipeline frequency. So of course, right? So we are talking about clock cycle. Then it means there has to be a frequency. What is frequency? F equals to 1 by tau. Tau is again your maximum. Tau is nothing but your stage delay, right? So and then tau. So it's Maximum stage delay. It actually, yeah. So you're saying tau is nothing but Tm, the maximum stage delay, plus D. Okay, so 1 divided by tau will give you your frequency. Okay, pipeline frequency. Now let me ask you this question. So what is going to be my what to say uh, the best case throughput. Let us say we have a pipeline, and that pipeline can process, let us say it can process let us say what is that, 1 nanosecond, right? 1 nanosecond is the maximum stage delay. Let us assume that, let us take 1 nanosecond to be my the maximum stage delay. Okay, and then which means that my pipeline frequency is going to be 1 gigahertz. How did I get this? 1 divided by 1 nanosecond, right? 1 nanosecond is nothing but 10 power minus 9. So 1 divided by 10 power minus 9, I will get 1 gigahertz. And that is my pipeline frequency. Now, what will be my throughput? What could be my maximum throughput in a pipeline? So throughput is nothing but number of your instructions per second, correct? Now you know that if you take like a what to say, after the pipeline everything is set, in between you take any random window in between, you can definitely find out that in every clock cycle, in one clock cycle, one instruction is coming out. Okay, one instruction will get executed. That's what we saw, right? That's about your pipeline. So after the initial setup is done, okay, everyone will have a ball in their hand, and then the clock cycle guy says pass. And after the pipeline is full, right, and every clock cycle you are going to get one ball out of it, right? One instruction is going to get out of it. Then what will be your throughput, your steady state throughput? It is going to be in one cycle you will have one instruction, so it means one instruction in one cycle, one one instruction per cycle, one IPC. Okay, now you have to convert that to seconds. Okay, and how many instructions in 1 second you will get? If you calculate, it is going to be exactly same as this 1 gigahertz. Okay, one instruction is going to get processed in one clock cycle. Clock cycle is 10 power minus 9, correct? So one instruction in 10 power minus 9 seconds. So which is again going to be 1 gigahertz. So in other words, your theoretical maximum throughput is going to be same as your pipeline frequency. In other words, if you take your laptop and you say my laptop is 2 gigahertz, okay, it means that 2 into 10 to the power of 9 instructions are going to get completed in 1 second. Okay, you understood? If you say my laptop is 2 gigahertz, this is theoretical. Okay, it may not be true on a practical aspect, but theoretically if you say 2 gigahertz processor, and that 2 gigahertz processor, it means that every clock cycle if I churn out one instruction, then I will have 2 into 10 to the power of 9 instructions getting committed in 1 second. Okay, life is not always that simple. So we'll have some inaccuracies. So that is true even for your processors. Okay, so we have something called as clock skewing. What is clock skewing? Clock skewing is nothing but the time, right? So when I say pass the ball, the first person he could be like very near to me, the second person could be somewhere at a distance. Okay, and because sound takes some time to travel, the first guy will hear me fast, The second guy may hear me not so fast. Okay, so something like that. So now clock is also like that. So in your circuit, there is going to be some delay in your wires. Wire delay is going to be there. So because of that, the even though we say synchronous circuit, and we actually theoretically we want all of them to start getting triggered at the same point, it may not happen. The first guy may actually get a signal, the clock signal, faster than the other. Okay, now we have to account for this. How do we account for this? We will do this. Okay, so tau is your time period. Okay, so it's going to give you clock cycle period, or the stage delay, right? This is going to be your total stage delay. Now when you are fixing this time period, how much time you should fix for this pipeline? You have to, so for this you need two aspects. So one is t max, okay, and then the other one is t min. You need to consider these both. You have a lower bound and an upper bound. Okay, now t max is the time for the longest path in your combinational logic. Okay, so we saw every stage will take its own time, right? In that, so one guy will have the longest path, and that one you call it t max, and one guy will have a very short path. Okay, so this is t min. Okay, so which means that this guy is going to, this path is so long, it will take that much time, right? That makes him slow. And the other guy is t min. Okay, so he will just give you results immediately. Now based on this, your tau, when you're fixing the time period, it it should always be greater than this, your t max, because he is the slowest guy. The slowest guy plus the latch delay. Okay, the slowest guy plus latch delay, it's similar to this, right? Whatever we are doing, plus there is going to be a skew. The skew can be positive or negative. Okay, so here when you say positive skew, it means that your you have the clock delay. Okay, you're hearing it slower. Okay, after I shout pass the ball, after s intervals of time, right, after s seconds you will hear. Okay, so then you add s. So now your tau should be definitely greater than this. Otherwise it may not, your output may not be correct. Okay, so that's the bound. Okay, now that's the lower bound. It has to be definitely greater than this. Now there is also an upper bound. Okay, now why do you need upper bound? If you take tau m, right, tau m is the maximum stage delay. Okay, now maximum stage delay, then what will happen is you must you cannot exceed. Let us say that in other words, what we are asking is, the slowest guy is 1 nanosecond. Okay, so I can actually give a clock of uh, 1 gigahertz, correct? If my slowest guy is 1 nanosecond, I can give a clock of 1 gigahertz, correct? 1 divided by that. But if my slowest guy is 1 nanosecond, can I give a clock of say 800 megahertz? Ah, can I give this? May not be true, because even though your slowest guy is really slow, but the fast guy, right, he is too fast. Okay, so now you should not miss his next input. Okay, so I mean next output. Now what will happen is this. I'm in a class, can you please call later? So what will happen is tau m is the maximum stage delay. But if you give, so let us say this is the clock that you are giving. Okay, so now you cannot exceed this, because the next guy is going to process. So this is the time you are supplying. Okay, now it cannot exceed the time. You have to include one t min. This t min is the time for which the next guy will actually have his output ready. Now if you're going to cover that here, right? So let us say if you actually bring it here, what will happen is by this time this guy would have produced this output and he would have produced the next output also. So you would lose this. So this one will be lost. Okay, because this guy is too fast and he would have produced the next output also. Now, so in order to do that, so you're going to accommodate this and you're going to take a negative skew. Okay, because what if this guy also happens to hear me fast? Okay, a negative skew can also happen. So now, because of this, you have to add this as your upper bound. So your tau should be in between these two. Okay, understood? Okay, so S is your time offset, T min, T max. We saw all this. Okay. Next is something called as a flow through delay. Okay. Now this is the delay for a non-pipelined processor. For a non-pipeline processor, and if you have n tasks, and each task you can assume it to be one instruction. That is the case, then n into k into tau, right? That is going to be your time taken for your non-pipelined processor. Got it? Because n is the total number of tasks or instructions. K is the uh, uh, k is the number of stages, and then tau. So for one stage, you're assuming tau as the delay. Okay, like that you have k stages, tau 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 tau, k tau is there, right? So you make it k tau to process one instruction. Now if you have n instructions, it's going to be n k tau. The moment we are bringing single processor, it means that we are going to find out speed up. There is no other reason why we are going to compare it with a single processor, right? So speed up, efficiency and throughput. Speed up, how will you calculate? Speed up is nothing but Sk is T1 by Tk. Okay, T1 is your uniprocessor or a single processor non-pipelined time, Nk tau, divided by, so this number here. So how did you get this, I mean, sorry, this expression here? How did you get this expression? If you think, right, your first instruction is going to take k cycles, correct? First instruction to come out of your pipeline, you're going to fill the entire pipeline, right? And only after, let us say you have 4-stage pipeline, only at the end of the 4th stage, after 4 stages, the 5th clock cycle is when you will get your first output, correct? So that's why your first instruction will take k cycles. Then all the subsequent instructions, right, each one will take 111. My second instruction, I will get my output in the k plus 1 cycle, correct? So every instruction I'm going to get in 111 cycle. So which means remaining n minus 1 instructions, I will get it in n minus 1 cycles. So this is the total clock cycles for processing n instructions. And for each instruction, the time it will take me for one, I mean, these many clock cycles, right? These many clock cycles I will have. One clock cycle is equal to tau time. So if I do this multiplication, then I will get this as my time for pipeline processor. Okay, processing n instructions. So if you simplify, you get this. Okay, nk by k plus n minus 1. So this is your speed up. Now so if let us say an ideal scenario, right? So then you will have your speed up. If k is your number of stages, your so in other words, if your number of instructions is fairly large, okay, let us say n is tending to infinity, like very large number of instructions. If you're processing, then you can actually apply your L'Hopital's rule, right? So your speed up will become k. Okay, so in other words, if you have a k stage pipeline, maximum speed up you will get theoretically is k. And similarly, if you have the other way around, right? If you have uh, only one instruction, then your speed up is going to be If you have only one instruction, so this will become 1 into k divided by k. Okay, so which is going to be 1. Speed up is going to be 1. Okay, 1x, 1 times, which is same as your uniprocessor, or like a non-pipeline processor. Next you have efficiency. Efficiency is nothing but speed up divided by your theoretical maximum speed up. Theoretical maximum speed up we just saw, it is going to be k, that is when n tends to infinite, correct? So then if you apply, you're going to get this expression, n divided by k plus n minus 1. And next you have throughput. Throughput is nothing but your number of instructions executed in a unit of time. Okay, now we already saw what is the unit of time, that is nothing but k plus n minus 1 tau. Okay, we just calculated it. So n is the total number of instructions, so n divided by total time, then you will get this expression here, n f by k plus n minus 1. Okay, any questions, guys? Okay. Now we need to find out the optimal number of stages. Okay, so what is the optimal number of stages you can have? So Larson was a scientist, so he came up with this formula. So he determined that the performance cost ratio. Okay, how do you determine the optimal stage, right? So you need to have cost associated with it. So he said the ratio between your uh, maximum throughput. Maximum throughput is going to be F. We saw, right? F is going to be the maximum throughput divided by C plus KH. C plus KH is your total cost. Okay, so he said maximum throughput ratio between your maximum throughput and the total cost is going to be your performance cost ratio. Correct, of course. Here, where C is nothing but the cost of the logic gates, and then K is your number of pipeline stages, and H is the cost of one latch. So this, the entire expression, the C plus KH is going to be the cost of a pipeline. Okay, so and then you can also have F. You can make F as 1 divided by P, and where P is T by K. So how you're calculating this is F, you're just expressing it as T by K, where T is the time for non-pipelined processor. Okay, which is so T, and then for a pipeline processor, it's going to be T by K, because you're dividing the total time T by K. Correct. So it becomes this. So the whole expression become 1 by T by K plus D times C plus KH. Okay, so this is a performance cost ratio. Now if you actually evaluate this, right, you will get a quadratic equation. Okay, and you can solve that quadratic equation. Now if you look at this graph, what you see here is the number of operations, right? Number of operations or number of instructions. As you increase, so initially when you have only one instruction, your speed up is also 1. Okay, so that's the worst case, right? That's non-pipeline. Now let us say you have a 6-stage pipeline. Then as you increase the number of instructions, the curve will actually uh, increase nicely. Okay, it'll actually go up, and then it'll go and go and go and go and very very close to the number of stages. Okay, it will never hit 6. It's only a theoretical max speed up. Okay, theoretically it can be 6, but never you can have 6 as a speed up. So it will be very very close to 6. Okay, it will be like 5.999 something. Okay, similarly if you have a 10-stage pipeline, your curve is going to increase, and then it's going to saturate at some level after some instructions, right? You're going to hit the speed up of 9.99 something. Okay, after that it will saturate. Keep in mind, it will never touch this line. And there is also, now how do you say whether 6-stage pipeline is good or 10-stage pipeline is good? Now if you plot the number of stages with the performance cost ratio that we saw here, right? Now I said there's going to be a quadratic equation. Now if you solve for that quadratic equation, you're going to come up with the number of stages, the ideal number of stages for your pipeline based on the cost, based on your architecture cost. You're going to find out how much performance I am getting versus how much cost I'm spending. With that, you will hit some point like this. It's going to increase as the number of stages increase. It's going to, so here, right, with 6 maximum speed up is only 6. With 10 your maximum speed up is going to be 10. Okay, if it is 20, is it going to be 20? Probably it is. Let me have then 100, right? 100 stages. If I have 100 stages, will I get 100 as my speed up? No, I will not, because at some point it is going to come down. Okay, it's going to hit the peak. This is somewhere around 20 only. Okay, it has been shown that for all the pipelines, right, we have today, if you take your cell phone or any processor, any means Snapdragon, Intel, AMD, whatever, right? So it has been shown that uh, 20 is kind of the right number for your pipeline. Okay, in and around 20, again it will change depending on which architecture it is. After that, it's like you will not get any benefit. It will actually add to more overhead, because the cost is also going to go up and there is not going to be that much return. Okay, all right. Okay, so time for some quick quiz. Okay, so let's have somebody answer this. Suraj, please unmute. Can you answer this quiz question? Suraj. Tejaswini, please unmute. Rachana, Bharat. It's very interesting. All right, who else? Who else? Pavitra, I'm taking attendance here. Priya, Aliva, Bhuvaneshwari.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Bhuvaneshwari, you want to answer this? Oh, Bhuvaneshwari, or is it Aliva? Aliva here. Okay, Aliva, please answer. The utilization pattern of successive stages in a pipeline is captured by lookup table, page table, reservation table, or optimal table. Man, this question looks like कौन बनेगा crorepati question. Aliva, you want to answer this?
Reservation table, maybe so.
Reservation table with a question mark. Yeah, that's it. That's correct. Reservation table. Good. Nice.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yeah. See, of course, I mean, I'm not going to ask anything what was not covered, right? All right. Next question. Govinda Raju. He's already not there. Okay. Lavanya. Okay. I'm serious here. Whoever I've called out so far, right, and who are not responded, I am not going to give attendance today. Okay. So I think we've reached that point. All right. Who's next? Chaitra, you can answer I don't know, but you should answer. Okay, you should respond. If you don't respond, you don't get attendance, and there is no point in just logging in and then walking away. Okay, I think it's time for you guys to get a little serious. Hey Chaitra, are you there? Nitin?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Nitin. Can you please answer the second question?
Um, Pipeline frequency, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Nice, Nitin. Theoretical maximum throughput of the pipeline is equal to, in reality, always lesser than your pipeline frequency. Okay, so if I say 2 gigahertz processor, it means 2 into 10 to the power of 9 instructions will get executed in 1 second. And that's your throughput, right? Throughput is nothing but number of instructions getting executed in a unit of time per second. Okay, and that's the theoretical max. All right. Actually, let me do this, right? I can just take the rest of the attendance here itself. Nitin is done. Pavitra? Priya? Rachana? Rachana is not there anyway. Rahul Kumar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rahul Dev?
Present, sir.
Sandeep?
Yes, sir.
Now your mics are all working. Wow, man. Sweet. Okay. Shiva Prasad?
Yes, sir.
Shreyas?
Yes, sir.
Shruti? Both Shrutis?
Present, sir.
Shubham?
Yes, sir.
Sindhu J?
Present, sir.
Sindhu R? Okay. Saumya?
Yes, sir.
Saurabh?
Present, sir.
Sindhu R? Okay. Saurabh Srikantam?
Present, sir. Sir, Saurabh present, sir.
Yeah. Shubhut?
Subodh present, sir.
Suhas?
Present, sir. Suhas.
Sumati?
Present, sir.
Supradipta?
Present, sir.
Man, all your mics are working now. Great, great. Nice to know. I really thought your mics were not working. Okay. Suraj? Surbi?
Present, sir.
Sridal?
Yes, sir.
Srilekha? Tejaswini? Ujjwal? Usha?
Present, sir.
Usha?
Present, sir.
Vaibhav?
Yes, sir.
Varshita? Varun?
Yes, sir.
Vidur?
Yes, sir.
Vikash?
Yes, sir.
Vinay?
Present, sir.
Vishal?
Sir, Vinay present.
Yeah. Vishal?
Present, sir.
Vishwa Vignesh?
Present, sir.
Vishwas?
Present, sir.
Yash?
Present, sir.
Zishan. Okay. Hey, all your mics are working, and even if not, you can type. That's nice. Wow, man, guys. That's all, man. Attendance taken today. That's all. I'm not going to ask you to enter your Chaitra Ankesh. Chaitra Ankesh. Chaitra, you were present. No, you didn't answer me. You answered this question, right? What's going to be? Hey, Chaitra. Hey, don't no need to type. Okay, don't take the pain of entering anything now. Okay, no, don't type anything in chat window now. You're done. Attendance is done. Chaitra, I want you to answer this. Okay, listen. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me just stop the presentation. Right?